Eliot Spitzer is getting his own TV show, and Al Gore is accused of sexual misconduct, a story we told you about just a moment ago. That's right. Politicians gone wild a little bit. Well, joining us now on the phone is crisis communications counselor and author of How to Give a Pretty Good Presentation. Joining us this morning is TJ Walker. Good morning, TJ.
Good morning.
That's a good title, actually.
Yeah,
for
Politicians Gone Wild.
Politicians Gone Wild.
Although
TJ,
we don't know for sure that Al Gore has at this point.
These are allegations, TJ, that came out just last night about Al Gore. How does he handle something like this, especially in light of the divorce proceedings that he's now going through?
Well, the worst response is no response. Yeah. That's what he's doing right now. Fundamental of any way of handling a crisis is you have to get your perspective out there. I would rather there be a story that has 9 people attacking me and saying I'm horrible and one quote from me saying why I'm great, rather than a story with 10 people attacking me and the story ending with and no comment from TJ, because that makes you look guilty. It makes it look like you've got something to hide. He needs to come out with some statement that puts the best possible light on this from his perspective.
That's the Tiger Woods situation.
Yeah, I mean, is there in some sense, though, some people think you're giving someone credibility by responding to them. If this one person, this massage therapist who is accusing him of sexual misconduct, is, you know, if she's just making this up, is he not making her a little bit more credible or validating her by even responding to it?
Well, the problem is it's everywhere. We're talking about it on Fox5. It's everywhere. So you could make that case if a reporter's calling saying, I don't really know if I'm going to do this story or not, but the story is out. He doesn't have to mention her by name, but he needs to get some story out as to his perspective and why he thinks people should look at this in a more favorable light. Because right now it looks like, you know, Bill Clinton Part 2 from some of the worst stories about the former president. And it just fits. It fits a storyline that is very unappealing.
And, you know, stories like this really don't go away. Let's move on to Eliot Spitzer here for a moment. Now, he has his own TV show, and he's kind of gone through this entire cycle of redemption, I guess you could call it, because, I mean, he was, you know, certainly in the news for what he did. Now he has his own TV show.
Well, speaking of things that don't go away, there's Eliot, and I guess CNN takes the attitude of desperate times call for desperate measures. It is interesting to note that typically the standards are lower with the media than in being in public life, being a public official, but not always. Someone who has to be very disappointed about this is Tiki Barber, who apparently lost a job with the Today Show because of his own affairs, and now must be thinking, wow, if only I had been like Eliot Spitzer.
Yeah.
Well, I also wonder, I mean, do we as a general public just have a very short memory, or are we just very forgiving, or do we just not really care once it's off the headlines?
Well, when it comes to Eliot Spitzer, I think a lot of people in the public can say, I do remember, I don't forgive, but here is a very bright, interesting person. I wouldn't necessarily want him as a husband or as a governor in a position of moral authority, but someone who has been on the inside of politics, government, big business. He does bring an interesting perspective into dissecting the news. Those who followed his columns on Slate, even Wall Streeters that hated him in office, tell me he is right on the mark and giving incisive commentary.
Exactly. So it's interesting to see this whole thing play out. TJ, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it very much. TJ Walker, crisis communications counselor and author of How to Give a Pretty Good Presentation.
Yeah, I have to agree with him. Ultimately, if it's irrelevant to what someone is doing, you
makes
can
good TV.
That's right. You can overlook. We'll see. We'll look at those ratings. All right. Well, still ahead on Good Day Early Call, solving the budget problem by taxing the clothes off your back. We're going to tell you about New York's latest plan.